Here we go, all of the race action from National Champs. I got a terrible start because Eli missed his pedal in front of me on the Green Canyon, and then your boy was in second to last place with some serious moving up to do. You can see how fast these boys are shifting, but the start at Cyclopark was this road stretch all the way up to the top corner, and when you got 60 men absolutely going full gas, not a lot of moving up is getting done right now because it was just so fast. You can see I've got power until I pit, but yeah, right here now I was just thinking this next section is going to be pure carnage, so I try and go up the outside and move up as many places as I can. Spoiler alert, I obviously didn't win this race, but I did move up past 30 people, and I don't know how. I think this section here must have been where I've done all the moving up, because I don't seem to overtake that many people, but you can see just how many bodies are. The boys at the front get a clear run through this. The choppers at the back certainly do not. I'm still on the bike at the moment, but I had to dismount here and just start running. Look at this, it's pure carnage. Guys are slipping and stuff. Look at this guy in front in red and blue, sliding absolutely everywhere, and then there's nothing more British than standing in a queue because you couldn't get through. Look at this, there's just bodies absolutely everywhere, but I think I managed to get past quite a few people in that queue there. Maybe I was it was like queuing in the when you're at a ski resort and you're just shoulder to shoulder trying to get past still without being an absolute numpty. But it was just pure carnage, and you do not know how slippy this course is from watching it. It was like an ice ring. It was Bambi on ice. People are sliding left, right and centre. You can see you're just trying to get grip anywhere. It went from an ice ring to like slick mud within an hour, and it's absolute carnage. We're coming in to the first off-camber section, and it was not the like rutted off-camber, and you've just got to stick it in and just hope for the best, and you're like scooting through. And the pace the front boys hit these ruts at, I take my hat off to them. If that was a perfect corner, I would not be able to go through it that fast. But I think somehow I have managed to move up a few places, and it was just like settling in right now because it was really hard to overtake round these corners. But I think some of the guys make some mistakes on this next little uphill before we go into pits. So I think I managed to maybe move up a slot. No, you can see it. No, I didn't. But I've got Joe, who was absolutely chopping me in practice in front of me now, and he finishes like 12th in this race. So the boy managed to move up a fair amount of spots. I think he finished 12th. But anyway, I think a lot of people decided to pit, which helped me. People going into pits there, you can see, and I think, no, they didn't. Joe pitted because he got a puncture, so I managed to move up one spot there. But honestly, this next section was carnage again. I took a terrible line into it. There was a line up there on the right that you could get in the rut and scoot along. Once you've ended up down here, you're off and dismounting. And it was actually later in the race I learned about that line on the right, which was really handy. It was from another rider. You're always trying to learn. And this was my favourite bit of the race here. I hear some old OAP behind me shouting, and I'm like, what are they letting OAPs on the course for? And it was only Sir Nick Craig shouting at me. He shouted, "Oi, get out of the way, chopper!" And it absolutely put a smile on my face. And I'd love to tell you that I jumped on Nick's wheel and went with him, but he left me for dead. These bloody OAPs, when's he ever going to get any slower? Nick, when are you going to slow down and give us choppers a chance? But he shouted that at me and it put a smile on my face. But you'll see like the lines he takes. He's just such a smart rider there. He's like overtook two people on the right there that decked it. And he's already gapped me. He's just so skillful, and it's like it's incredible to watch. But I decided to dismount here, which seemed to be a terrible idea. The lad that came past me a second ago on the Trek bike has to dismount as well, and he has an absolute nightmare over on the left. He's like dragging his bike along, and it was so hard to remount on this section. Look, you see, he couldn't get his leg over. It's so hard to remount because the ground was so hard and bumpy from the ice. It was crazy. But I don't know what position I was in now. I think maybe I was just inside the top 40, so not too bad. I reckon I'd moved up about 20 spots, and you can see Dan from Magspeed in front of me roughly. I apologise about the camera. I try and keep it as clean as possible, but when you're blowing out your backside, it is not easy to do. And me and Dan and this guy in the black kit in front had a right old battle for the whole race now. It is wicked fun. And we do manage to bridge over in a second onto the group in front of us. And I think I managed to overtake a few more riders because a few riders go into the pits and stuff like that. I decided not to pit. And when I actually went past pits, I was thinking, cool, my tyre's a bit low at the rear. And it turns out I had a puncture, which was a bit of a nightmare, but you can see just how muddy and slippy this section is. You had to stick it in this rut just here, and honestly for me it was point shoot and hope I was coming out the other side of the rut. And you'll see this next section now, there's a big group of riders, I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe about 5 riders that we're about to latch onto. But this next little off-camber bit was like a sheet of ice. Honestly, if anyone didn't ride this and was watching, like, why is everyone slipping, I could tell you, look at these people, just feet everywhere. Georgie boy slips over. Look at Dan in front, just like, it was Bambi on ice. Honestly, you had to, like, sort of my plan for this race was to try and, like, do slow and steady in some sections. I know that sounds mental at a national champs, but if you were having to get off and run, you really had to pick, like, the point where you were going to put your foot and hope that there was some grip there or someone else's footprint. Because if you didn't, you were just on your backside before you know it. It was just, honestly, it was about picking where your foot was going to go rather than trying to run through it. There was a lad behind me in the CNN kit or something like that. How he was running so fast, I do not know. The bloke was Usain Bolting over ice in a second. But we bridged over onto this group. You can see now there's like 3 or 4 riders ahead, and look, there's a big train of us, and we jump on, and I don't know if I was just a bit overexcited, but they sort of sat up as we hit the tarmac thing, and I was like, whoa, Dan, Tokyo Drift in there. So I managed to get past Dan because he went pure Tokyo Drift. But look at this huge group of riders here. We come off this rutted section and everyone seemed to like sit up a little bit, and Georgie boy just got the urge to start whacking it past one rider. Then I come into the next bit. I like sort of like jumped on their wheel here. Everyone was like noodling along. I was like, you're going to get a 30-minute race, George. You can't be noodling along. So I move up. And this is where I managed to get like 3 or 4 riders. Everyone decides to pit. Georgie boy decides to stay out. This lad here stayed out as well. So like 1, 2, 3 riders on the right all pitted. And then I moved up past 3. I think I managed to move up past the Oxford rider. And then the Mag Speed rider that come out there, I think that's Tom, a different one. But honestly, through not pitting there, I've managed to move up like 4 or 5 places, which I know eventually I am going to have to pit, but I did only pit once in this race, and it was because this bike that I'm on now, about 30 seconds further into this section, when we get off the stairs and do the run, Georgie boy got a flat. But I think it was a slow leak, so it was just felt like I was running low pressures, but overtaking another rider on the flat. What is going on? But first lap was pure carnage. I'd take my heart rate with a pinch of salt because it's on my wrist. But yeah, dismounting here for the hurdles, and then I think I move up past another place. The Mag Speed rider Tom in front there goes absolutely sideways out of this corner, just trying to put the power down too early. So another spot moved up. Georgie boy is moving up the ranks now. I can tell you, this section, although you can't see it because there's bikes on my shoulders, was pure hell. Every lap running up these 47 steps, I cannot tell you the pain I went through. And the worst bit was, I didn't then have the skill to ride this next bit. So it was just a case of carrying on running and trying not to deck it in front of all the people shouting. The atmosphere was unreal. If you ever get the chance to ride a Nationals, you've got to do it. And I just want to thank everyone that was out there like cheering my name and shouting all sorts like Bambi on ice and whatever. Chopper got shouted at me a few times, standard procedure. But look, this bit here was so slippy and I made a schoolboy error. I was like pushing my bike through this, and you really needed to pick it up and run with it because that mud was just so claggy. You can like see it in that rider there, his wheels were just like locked up with all the mud. So this CNN rider managed to come round me here. He was the guy that was a legit Usain Bolt runner. So I did lose a couple of places here, but I do manage to make it back up in a second. But yeah, this guy here, what an how he was running so fast on ice, I do not know. He must have had spikes on his shoes. But now this was sort of, after moving up that 4 or 5 places past pits, this was probably the battle for the top 30 now, because we've got another rider there. I think that was Jake or someone that had a mechanical and ended up DNFing. But this now was sort of the battle for a top 30. At the time, I did not know that, but for me, this is absolutely mega. First lap, carnage, full gas. It is now about settling into a rhythm and trying to limit the mistakes, not crash too much. It was really hard though. Look, you can see everyone's just going absolutely sideways and trying to keep it on 2 wheels through that section. They were so slick, those mogul bits. But yeah, as I was saying, I do manage to get back up past these riders, and we have a wicked little battle now on our hands. But the one bit I was still struggling with was power on the flats. But I think I managed to, like I said, limit my damage on like some of the technical sections. You'll see I managed to like shut the gap down on a few of the corners. If I can just get that little bit of power back in my legs, like here, you can see the power wasn't there to go with the boys. But as soon as we get into like the rutted section here, big crash there on the right, so I managed to move up a spot there. But yeah, these technical sections were where I was closing my gaps down. And I think it's where you see the difference on these national courses. If you ain't got the techers, the ability to go around corners fast and stuff like that, you really get shown up. And in these conditions, it's not about just putting down the power, putting out ponies. It is about being skillful enough to go around the corners and actually stay on 2 wheels, which I managed to do until the last lap. But we'll get to that in a bit. So wicked little battle now. Me, the CNN, I think Cycles, that's what it's called, the guy in the black kit up ahead, and then behind me is Mag Speed's Dan. So we were all battling for 28th place, I think this is. And just here is where I had to pit. This is the one and only time I pitted. Thank you, Gravel Granny and Del Boy. And it was because your boy had a puncture. So he was back on the bike. I did lose a place to Dan, but I also found out about this wicked line he took through there. Like, it doesn't look fast, but you could stay on the bike and it was so much faster than dropping down like I did on the first lap. So that little section was wicked because it gave me a good line for the next few laps, and now the battle was seriously on. This is where what it's about, battling for that top 30. But yet again, look, you could see on these draggy sections, didn't quite have the power, but I was managing to close it back down on the technical sections, a few of the running sections, which was wicked. And it really was one of those races where like Dan would get away a bit, I'd then close the gap down, so you can see here he's gapped me again. But then where I didn't have a spare bike in pits now, it was a case of I was then managing to bridge back on every time someone pitted. The only problem was my bike was getting so heavy on these run-ups. It was just getting clogged in mud. Unfortunately, we've got no power now and my heart rate is all over the place on my wrist. But yet again, so we're coming into the technical sections. I'd get back on the running, then he'd distance me again. But it was absolutely wicked when you feel like you're actually in the race and people are cheering you on and you're just giving it, well, what you feel like is giving it beans. Was absolutely class. But yet again, he started to pull away from me on this section. Then he made a mistake, got back on, and then same again. It was just a case of I got past because he decides to pit, and then he comes tanking back past. And honestly, the camera footage just doesn't do it justice. It's so exciting every time you're like in these little battles. And then we managed to bridge back over to the CNN rider that was an absolute running machine. And right here, I did do a dirty little chop, I'm not going to lie, but I felt like I had good momentum coming into here, and then the line you needed was the rut. and your boy literally just stuck an elbow out. I apologise, but just here, you need this rut to the right, so I've literally stuck an elbow on him, got in the rut. I hold my hands up, chopper move, but if you ain't rubbing, you ain't racing. And we were having a right old battle out there, and we were almost bridging back over to the lad that was on the pink crux just here. Look at this, look! I told you, he's like Usain Bolt of running on ice, this guy. He was rapid. It was absolutely unbelievable. Every time I managed to get past him, he pitted there, so I managed to get back on. But you're waiting a second. I think I get ahead of him again or catch back up. Such a fast runner. The only time he ever falls over was here, and it was the one time my camera swung away, so you get a crotch shot instead. But he managed to stay ahead of me, and then I went back past here, and I was thinking I wanted to really try and bridge over to this guy on the Specialized bike, but he was like, you know when you're slowly catching, but then he had a bit here which was a little bit faster, and every time it was like, look, Usain Bolt again, how is he so fast at running? Jesus, this guy can seriously shift on 2 feet. Did you see the speed he was going? But then Dan from Mag Speed, who we overtook earlier, come back past, and I was at this point, I'm not going to lie, we were 32 minutes in, I was hanging on for dear life. I genuinely thought this was going to be my last lap. Then the CNN rider decks it there, so I managed to get back past. I stayed on my bike this time. It was so much quicker being able to put the power down straight away. Yeah, and then look, same again. Bambi on ice, me and Dan. I don't know if the CNN rider gets back past us here, but honestly, he was probably running that at like 300 mile an hour. But yeah, wicked battle here. I was like right on Dan's wheel, and then bang, I think I hit the stake here. Mistakes, look, boof. Those stakes do not move, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, as I was saying, mistakes started coming on this last lap. I didn't realise we were battling for the top 30, but just here, Dan went into pits, I managed to bridge over, and I thought this was going to be the last lap and we were going to get pulled, so I was giving it everything I could. Look, heart rate's caught back up now, 180, and I was thinking, if I played this out loud, you can hear me say to the commissaires, I'm like, have we got another lap? I said, or something like that, because honestly, I thought that was it. And then my lights went out for me. After this next run up, we caught up with Dan managed to drag us onto that Specialized rider. You'll see round here, I mean, we are literally noodling now. We're surviving. Heart rate is maxed out. The Specialized rider didn't manage to get clipped in there, so I moved past. Dan attacked off that downhill section, so he pulled away. And then I just thought to myself, I'm actually in 29th place at the moment. Absolute top result. I didn't know that at the time, but boy, oh boy, did I fall apart. Here we go. I tried to get back onto Dan, decked it. You can't park there, Georgie boy. Absolute nightmare on this lap for crashes. And then to top it off, one thing I believe is when Cameron Mason's about to lap you, you get out of the way and stop riding. So I don't want to dig the lad out on the pink bike, but he was elbow to elbow with Cameron Mason, and he comes past me here. Now, am I salty about it? Yes. But Cameron was like, excuse me, please, excuse me. And they were elbow to elbow. If you take out the guy this is his career trying to win national champs. This is the only time I ever get to see Cameron Mason on camera when he laps me, and it is literally blink and you'll miss it. But unfortunately, I lost 29th place, and then to top it off, I crashed into a tree. Great, Georgie boy. But I was absolutely gutted about that section. I peeled off, stopped, think what you want. I think that is the right thing to do. Then I hit another stake. I was literally pinballing off stakes. But that was my race. It was absolutely wicked fun. Thanks for all the cheers. I gave these lads a little high five on the side here, so I thought I'd leave this in. Georgie boy lasted 47 minutes before Cameron Mason lapped him, so I can't complain about that. A 30th place finish. I hope you enjoyed the video, and it is now on to the mountain bike season.